Hi everyone, Andrew Oaktree here. Welcome back to my channel. Hey guys, so today I'll be covering the topic top 10 reasons why you shouldn't move to Portugal. Now I know this is a little bit controversial due to the fact that I'm Portuguese myself. But the reason why I'm doing this, it's because when I used to live in the United Arab Emirates, I flew with a lot of Portuguese people. And they were always preaching on the flights to the cabin crew from other nationalities how perfect Portuguese was and how much better it was than their own countries. Now, I do love my country, I'm not gonna lie, but it's far from being perfect. And one of the reasons that I'm doing this video, it's because I have a lot of friends who are considering actually coming to live in Portugal, and I'm gonna give some pointers that most Portuguese people will not give, and this type of information might not be available on the internet. So reason number one, the salaries in Portugal are extremely low. The basic salary goes around 600, 700 euros. The average salary goes somewhere between 800 to 1,000 euros. I'm saying these values already without the tax. Now, bear in mind that many of these job offers or jobs itself, when they're hiring people, requirements that they have in almost all the job applications are a degree in something. Now, you having a degree does not imply that they will pay you more. In fact, they will pay you exactly the less. So regardless of your experience, you can have like 10 years work experience, several areas, you will still get paid the same. Point number two. We have extremely high prices, namely for petrol, for electricity. I can tell you just now that in terms of electrical cost, we have one of the most expensive electrical energies in the entire Europe. Same applies to the petrol. I've been to many other countries. I've been to Switzerland, I've been to Germany, and the price that they charge for 1 liter of petrol, many times it's actually cheaper than what it's being charged here. Point number three, the insane house prices. Now this is mainly caused due to tourism. Many people, they decide that they want to come and retire in Portugal or just buy a house for vacations. Now, of course, the market feels this, and since there's a lot of demand, they increase the prices of their real estate. So, in the end, what this results in is the fact that it will be even harder for Portuguese people to actually be able to purchase a house or even get a loan in order to purchase a house. I can tell you as well that in Lisbon, you will be paying around 800 euros, 1,000 euros for an extremely small house because there's way too much demand for it, so the prices just go high. Point number four. So if you want to save up some money and decide not to get a car, just resort to public transport, I'm afraid to tell you that we have one of the worst public transport networks in the entire Europe. If it all comes down, like where exactly do you live? You might be able to take up to 30 minutes to get to work, or you may actually take about 2 hours to get to work, depending on which area of the city you're living and what kind of buses and stops they actually cover. Point number five is that as mentioned before, cars are very expensive here. They're expensive because they're taxed twice. So when people import cars from another country in Europe and they legalize the car here, they have to pay 2 taxes on top of them, which reflects then upon the final price of the car, which means that you have to spend a whole lot of money to buy the car that you want. Now, let's say that you had an issue with something with your boss, with another person, and you need to resort to the law to help you out with this problem. Now, unfortunately as well, I have to tell you that when judicial cases go to court, they take a lot of years to be resolved. This in turn is reflected upon how much money you will eventually have to pay your attorney. It's always a risk to go to court because in case that you lose, you'll have to pay not only for, your attorney, for the courts, but you will also have to pay the other person that you're trying to resolve the issue with. Now, one that Portugal is famous for is the insane amount of bureaucracy that it takes to do literally anything. I can tell you one of the worst experiences you can ever have here is if you, and trust me, you will have to do it sooner or later, is Loja do Cidadão. This is a place where people go to take care of their IDs, social security, you name it. Whatever thing that you have to resolve based on your stay in Portugal, you will have to go there. And many times what happens is that you arrive there at 8 in the morning and you end up leaving from there like at 5 in the afternoon. And this is no exaggeration. It has happened to me many times and to many other people. I mean, it's just absolutely normal. Nothing has changed throughout the years, and I seriously doubt that it will. Now, one in particular that I find absolutely ridiculous is the fact that there are jobs or companies that require you to live in Portugal in order to apply for that job. Now, let's think for a moment, and let's say that you used to work for a foreign airline, and you decide that you want to apply for a national airline. They will ask you for your ID number, your tax paying number, your insurance number, health insurance number, and it's kind of like absurd, really, in the sense that you are not going to go to a country without already having a job secured there, right? I mean, because then what happens is that you would end up having to pay rent for a house. You have absolutely no source of income, and then you might be stranded up to a point where you stay for 6-8 months, a year, without being able to get a job because you don't have the proper ID cards. Another thing is, like, you don't come here without a job, but in order to get a job you need to be here. You see my point? Now, one that is pretty much known, I think, throughout Europe is that Portugal is a corrupt country. Of course, there's corruption in any country. I mean, which country in the world doesn't have corruption? But here, it's done openly. Here, whenever something happens, it runs on the news for days, for weeks, maybe even for months. But then in the end, the people that were caught doing these acts, nothing really happens to them. In fact, the only one that I remember something actually happened was someone who screwed up so much, did so many crimes, that there was no other solution but to put him in jail. And guess who it was? One of our ex-prime ministers. I mean, talk about leading by example, right? Anyway, I don't believe that, you know, the prison that he's in is like the normal prison where the typical prisoners go. I think this is more kind of like an Escobar kind of prison. I don't know if you ever saw Narcos, but you know, his prison had like, you know, the gym, sauna, he had parties, you know. So trust me, they're not the typical prisons. So a thing that I also need to mention is the fact that the housing in Portugal, the materials used to build the houses are very bad. Normally you have extremely thin walls, which results in that during the summer, when you have extreme heat waves, your house will be boiling hot. While the opposite also occurs. When you're during the winter, your house is really cold. So this is going to force you to spend a lot of electricity in order to keep the house warm. The problem is that because of the type of construction, the house tends not to keep the heat or the cold for a long time, which makes you have to run the air conditioning for quite a long time. So when you put everything into perspective, if you have a normal job and you have to pay rent for a house, and then you have to consider you know, the petrol, the electricity, the water, the gas, you know, if you put all the bills together, it makes me wonder, like, even if you decide to share a house with someone, let's say a girlfriend, a boyfriend, and you want to have a kid in the future, what kind of savings are you going to use in order to provide an education for him or her? How are you even going to support, you know, yourself when almost, if not all your money will go to paying, you know, the normal bills, and then all of a sudden, like, you have a broken pipe in the house, or you have, like, you know, the insurance of the car to pay or something? How are you going to save up to put your child in daycare, which, allow me to tell you, the prices vary between 350 euros up to 450 euros per month. You do the math, you tell me, how is it possible that people survive here, you know? Anyway, aside from all this negativity, which I felt inclined to share with you, I will say also some positive things about the country itself. Portugal is actually a very calm place. We don't really had any recent wars, you know, people get along here. We have, you know, extremely good food. The beaches are amazing. If you surf, like, we have one of the best waves in the world. I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was rated number 2. Cheap wine, cheap beer. Portuguese people are friendly. So if I were you and I was considering moving to Portugal, I would think about things very well. Because, like, let's say if you are coming with your wife, if you're coming with a friend, and if you're sharing a house, and if both of you have a good job with a good salary, like paying you, let's say, 1,500, 2,000 euros per month, which it's pretty good, then you'll be okay. But otherwise, if you're gonna go, you know, full on, and if you're gonna go for an average job, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're gonna have to struggle quite a bit. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I know it wasn't exactly what the type of material that I normally do, but this is something that, you know, I wanted to leave clear. Portugal is an amazing country. It has its ups and it has its downs. Just to talk about the upper sides, the positive things of something, and not talk about the negative things, is just to be a hypocrite. Myself, I prefer to let it clear out in the open. It's an amazing country, but it has its downs. Guys, I hope everything goes well in your life. I hope if you decide to come to Portugal that everything goes well and yet you become successful. And please let me know in the comments if you'd like me to cover any specific topic. And please subscribe down here. There's a button. I don't know if it's on this side or on this side because it's always in the opposite side of the camera. Have a nice day, guys. Take care.